It was a nice day on the island of Sodor. Duck was coming out of his shed, and he always enjoyed it. Duck and his good friend Oliver always enjoyed working together on the Great Western Line. However, there was always somewhat of a problem on the rail line. Not everyone was always ready to work, causing there to quite often be wrecks. There was a bell on the rail line. The bell made sure that everyone was doing their work. That day, Henry was pushing Murdoch to the shed, as Murdoch had somewhat of a big crash earlier. Murdoch was pushed into the shed, and Henry decided he would stay there too. However, James was just pulling a long goods train, and he made plans long ago to sleep in the sheds. However, the sheds were now full, and James was unable to get in. "Well, bother," said James, and he puffed off. However, the points were switched for an oncoming goods train, and James was not ready for this. Whoa! And he smashed through the train. Sir Topham Hatt came later that day, and that's when he realized that he needed to know when trains were coming and going from those sheds. "If that engine was ready to pull this train, we wouldn't have to deal with this. We wouldn't have a crash," he said. He was quite angry, and he knew that he had to do something about it. "The bell," he said. "We'll put the bell over there." However, the next day, the track was gone, and the bell was being inserted. The old track piece was then put back in the new spot. Duck did not like this. He thought it was a waste of time and too much noise. Henry thought it was a waste of time, and Murdoch thought it was too much noise. As Duck left the shed, he kept complaining. "Too much noise, a waste of time. Too much noise, a waste of time," he chanted. Duck then started working in the yards. Sunset started to fall on the Great Western Railway. The lights started turning on everywhere. Duck was still mad about the bell. "You just need to go over it, silly duck," said James. "Well, that bell isn't good," said Duck. "Quack, quack, 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 quack. That's what you do, Duck. Quack!" And James puffed off in a smirky type way. Duck was then getting ready to push some cars around until right then... "Help!" cried James. Duck puffed back as quick as he could. James slipped down a steep hill and he couldn't stop going. Duck had to think quick. James was coming right towards him. Right then, Duck puffed around the corner, and James went right past. Destruction lay everywhere. However, the engines in the sheds were okay, but quite scarred from the moments. Duck was safe. "Phew," he said. "I'll go get the breakdown train." "Well, James," said Sir Topham Hatt, "I'm very displeased with you. It turns out it's not necessarily that we need a bell, It's more or less that I just can't trust you. So for that, James, I'm docking you from doing goods trains, and now you're going to be part of the Buzzy Bee Festival." "What on earth is the Buzzy Bee Festival?" said James. "Well, go find out for yourself," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Oh, and please, sir, can we get rid of the bell?" said Duck. "Why, yes, Duck. I understand your frustration towards it, and we will get rid of it immediately." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Duck. The next day, everyone was waiting for James. Then they heard a grumble and a buzz, and there came James. All the engines laughed and laughed and laughed, and Boko said one word to it: "Buzz, buzz, buzz."